There are a lot of individuals who believe that the role of a mother is unparalleled when it comes to the impact that she has on the lives of her children. The word mom evokes thoughts of warmth and tenderness, and it signifies a source of love and comprehension that is not contingent on any particular circumstance. Because mothers are frequently the people to whom we turn in times of joy, fear, and pain, their presence is significant across cultures and languages. This is because mothers are the ones to whom we turn in times of joy, fear, and suffering. On the other side, the vision of motherhood that appears to be flawless might occasionally be shattered by a catastrophe that was not foreseen. The tragic and upsetting events that transpired in the life of Christie Sheets, which took place in the state of Texas in the year 2016, brought to light a chapter in the lives of a family that appeared to be living a regular existence. This terrible event not only sheds light on the complexities that exist within the connections that exist within the family, but it also calls into question the conventional notion of the function that a mother plays in a family. The breakup of Christie Sheets' parents, which took place in Decatur, Alabama, the place where Christie Sheets' journey started, was the defining event of the early years of Christie Sheets' life. Christie was grown up by her mother, Rebecca Bird, and she had to deal with the challenges that come with being raised in a family with only one parent. Christie's mother was born and raised in the United States. Because of this experience, she was more equipped to deal with the difficulties that she would encounter in the years to come. Christie's grandfather, a former cop who had an enormous collection of firearms, was a source of solace and guidance for her during the formative years of her life. He was a collector of firearms. As a result of the time that they spent together in a dark area in the basement, where they found treasures and listened to captivating stories, Christie's perspective on life underwent a transformation. Additionally, she was exposed to the peculiar world of weaponry as a result of this event. Christie's journey through school was defined by confrontations with her peers, which had a significant impact on her mental health during her childhood. These conflicts were the defining characteristics of Christie's path through school. The fact that the young rebel attended one of the most prominent schools in the state did not change the fact that he was not engaged in academic pursuits, which led to a challenging educational journey for him. Due to the fact that she frequently had arguments with her classmates, she was left with a horrific experience that she had to go through at school. We are going to delve more into the life of Christie Sheets in the following sections, where we will investigate her relationships, the tragic event that occurred, and the aftermath that had an enduring impact on her family and the community in which she resided. In spite of the challenges that she had faced in her younger years, Christie Sheets was able to find a sense of safety and friendship when she eventually came into contact with Jason Sheets. Their relationship blossomed, which ultimately led to the couple being married and bringing with it the possibility of spending the rest of their lives together. According to Christie, the entrance of Jason, a young and bright expert, signaled the beginning of a new chapter that was filled with joy and optimism that she had not previously experienced. Their first child, a daughter whom they called Taylor, was born on April 19, 1994, making them parents for the very first time. The 21st of October 1998 was the day that they became parents for the second time to their daughter Madison. With a lifestyle that was not only rich but also satisfying, the Sheets family was able to flourish and achieve success. Having Jason's successful career as an information technology consultant at a large oil and gas company allowed Christie to give her attention to the upbringing of their daughters and the maintenance of an excellent family. Christie was able to do this because Jason had a profitable job. A peaceful and measured manner of living was the way that the Sheets family lived their lives over the course of many years. This was the way that they lived their lives. The representation of domestic stability was significantly influenced by a number of variables, including the efforts of Jason, Christie's unwavering dedication to her responsibilities as a mother and housewife, and the affection that was shared among the members of the family. The calm that had been present in their existence was destroyed by an unanticipated catastrophe that would result in the dissolution of the connections that appeared to be ideal inside their family. Despite this, the tranquility still remained. During the year 2012, Christie Sheets was confronted with the truth that her cherished grandfather, who had been a significant presence in her life, was going to die away in the near future. As a result of Christie's mother passing away after just 2 months had elapsed, the already devastating impacts of the loss that they had been through were further exacerbated. Because of the terrible things that happened in Christie's life, her mental health began to deteriorate, which ultimately led to a cycle of hopelessness and instability within her. Christie's mental health fell into a downward spiral as a result of these occurrences. Christie's mental health took a big plunge for the worst as a consequence of the passing of both her grandfather and her mother. This was a significant and unpleasant turn for the worse. She sought sanctuary in a variety of treatments, which included anything from psychotherapy to medications in order to alleviate the pain that she was feeling. She eventually found relief from the pain. On the other hand, her internal condition continued to be unpredictable, which brought her to the verge of developing a mental disorder. Despite the fact that she never stopped being unstable, this was the situation we found ourselves in. It became a repeating motif in Christie's life, and it became a defining quality of her existence. The difficulty that Christie encountered in preserving her emotional well-being ultimately contributed to her existence. It would appear that Christie has reverted back to her previous life after a period of time during which she appeared to be experiencing difficulties with her mental health. She was able to acquire a job as a manager at a laser cosmetology clinic, which ultimately served as a means of diverting her attention away from the inner turmoil that she was feeling. She was successful in finding this position. It was nonetheless the case that numerous members of the family continued to have disagreements with one another notwithstanding this. A family lunch that was supposed to be a celebration of Jason's birthday turned into a night of struggle on June 24, 2016, which ultimately led to a devastating catastrophe that would shock the town and profoundly impact the Sheets family. The tragedy resulted in the Sheets family being irrevocably affected. The occurrence of each of these occurrences took place on the same day. During the evening of June 24, 2016, the Sheets family got together for what was supposed to be a celebration of Jason's birthday. However, the event did not proceed as planned, but the event turned out to be something completely different than what was expected. On the other hand, the evening turned out to be a genuinely tragic one in the end, because Jason had a big statement to make in the midst of everything that was going on. The atmosphere became more solemn as a result of his words. It was during the course of the family dinner that Jason disclosed his desire to end his relationship with Christie before the meal was over. This information put a shadow over the event and contributed to the creation of an environment that was laden with anticipation and anxiety. The statement made by Jason was directly responsible for the final deterioration of Christie Sheets' reaction, which could be described as anarchy. There was a tumultuous exchange of feelings that took place in the living room, which included yelling, shouting, and other actions that were disruptive. This interchange of feelings was quite disruptive. After hurriedly leaving after overhearing the exchange, Christie eventually returned with a firearm in her possession that she had taken with her. She had brought the handgun before she left. As Jason was attempting to calm the girls down in the midst of the building issue, the quarrel took a horrific turn as terror swept throughout the household. This occurred while Jason was trying to calm the girls down. At the time, Taylor Sheets, who was 22 years old at the time, made a frantic call to emergency services, demanding that they protect her mother from committing any harm to them. This was done as the situation continued to spiral out of hand. In addition to that, she requested that they shield her mother from putting them in danger. Unfortunately, the line was broken. which rendered the dispatcher useless and prevented them from taking any action. This was a really sad situation. During the subsequent turmoil, Christie shot a number of rounds at her girls while simultaneously carrying a pistol. She did this for the sake of protecting her daughters. It was discovered that Madison, who was 17 years old, and Taylor, who was 22 years old, had both passed away. Once the police arrived at the scene, they found the remains of Madison and Taylor. Madison and Taylor had both been killed. In spite of the fact that Christie was standing over Madison with a revolver in her hand, she disobeyed the requests of the police and was fatally shot at point-blank range, which marked the tragic conclusion to the family tragedy. Madison was killed. Madison has been put to death. In the past, there had been a pattern of conflicts within the Sheets family that necessitated the involvement of the law enforcement. As a result of the pattern of dysfunction that existed within the family, law enforcement officials attended to their residents more than a dozen times over the course of the years. This was a reflection of the dysfunctional pattern that existed within the family, a clear indication of the underlying tensions and difficulties that the family was going through was offered by the fact that the police were involved in the situation on multiple occasions. Christie Sheets' struggle with mental health issues, which was made worse by the loss of both her grandfather and her mother, was one of the most significant causes that contributed to the horrific occurrence. Christie Sheets' grandfather and mother both passed away before her. The fact that she made numerous attempts to take her own life may be a contributing factor to the fact that she suffered from depression on a consistent basis, as stated in multiple sources. The dynamics of the family, which were already strained by arguments and Jason's departure in the past, further compounded the complex web of issues that contributed to the tragedy. The catastrophe was caused by a complex web of issues related to the family. In spite of the fact that the specific reasons behind Christie's actions are yet unknown, investigators have referred to a confluence of elements as the cause of her behavior to date. There are a number of potential circumstances that could have played a significant influence in her decision, such as the split of her marriage, problems with her daughters, and the struggle for control within the family. As indicated by her inability to accept Taylor's upcoming marriage and her enthusiasm for firearms, questions were made regarding Christie's psyche and the circumstances that led to the unthinkable crime. This was evidenced by the fact that she advocated for weapon ownership. We are going to study the responses of the community, as well as the ideas that people have regarding the regulation of firearms and the long-term repercussions that this tragic occurrence has had on Jason Sheets and on society as a whole. These investigations will take place in the following sections. The residents of the town were left in a state of shock and amazement as a result of the terrible tragedy that took place with Christie Sheets and her daughters. While recounting his longtime acquaintance with the Sheets family, Gino Hernandez, a neighbor, wiped away tears as he recalled the time when the Sheets daughters were 10 years old. He regarded the sisters as being nice, extroverted, and always friendly, drawing emphasis to the obvious contrast with Christie, who appeared to be spending her time alone. Christie appeared to find herself spending her time alone. Other neighbors, who expressed their sorrow over the loss of 2 young lives and the inconceivable events that took place within the family, voiced thoughts that were similar to those expressed by those who lived nearby. Jason Sheets was the only person who made it through the disaster alive, and he was a witness to the horrifying events that took place upon the occurrence of the catastrophe that took place that evening. The remarks that he made to the investigators while they were doing their inquiry provided significant insights into the dynamics of the family, as well as the reasons that Christie went about her actions. These statements were made while the investigators were conducting their investigation. Witnesses were able to construct a frightening picture of the calamity that had taken place by drawing attention to the arguments that took place inside the family as well as the cold-blooded manner in which the events were carried out by the family. The tragedy that befell the Sheets family had a tremendous influence on the entirety of the community, and it left an indelible stamp on the hearts of everyone who had the privilege of familiarizing themselves with them. As a direct consequence of the sad event that took place, the general public received a greater understanding of the factors that contribute to the complexity of familial relationships, the difficulties that are associated with mental health, and the significance of engagement in situations that entail domestic dispute. It was difficult for the community to come to terms with their loss, and many questioned the manner in which such a catastrophic occurrence could take place inside the bounds of an average neighborhood. An additional layer of complication was added to the tragedy as a result of Christie Sheets's outspoken opposition to legislative proposals that were designed to restrict access to firearms and her unwavering support for the right to bear arms. Due to the fact that Christie Sheets voiced her support for the right to bear guns, this came about as a result of her statement. Her posts on social media, which included photography of weaponry that had been polished and remarks that were defiant about the right to own a large number of firearms, started to come back to haunt the family. Her posts featured images of guns that had been polished. In a tragic turn of events, Christie's ardent conviction in the use of firearms to protect her family has tragically resulted in the deaths of both of her children, as well as Christie herself. Christie's belief has been tragically taken to its logical conclusion as a consequence of this unfortunate event. The tragic event that occurred to the Sheets family rekindled the ongoing national debate on the control of firearms, which had been going on for a considerable amount of time prior to the news of the tragedy. Concerns have been made over the availability of firearms, particularly in circumstances in which persons may be struggling with issues that are related to their mental health. Concerns like these were brought up by the case. This tragic event, which brought to light the significance of having a nuanced discourse about how to strike a balance between protecting the rights of people and ensuring the protection of the larger public, brought to light the importance of that dialogue. The sad tragedy of the Sheets family was added to the larger and more comprehensive narrative of tragedies in the United States that were caused by weaponry. This narrative was expanded to include the Sheets family. The larger narrative incorporates this supplementary narrative that was added to it, concerning the societal issues that play a part in the occurrence of occurrences of this sort, as well as the relevance of implementing comprehensive actions to address mental health issues and restrict access to firearms. There was renewed thought as a consequence of the event. This was a consequence of the fact that the event occurred. While the town was in mourning, the nation tried to come to terms with the horrible reality that tragedies such as this are not isolated instances, but rather are a part of a bigger and more complicated problem with gun regulation. This was a difficult realization for the nation to come to terms with. This was a truth that was tough to acknowledge. On a night that was considered to be typical, Christie Sheets and her girls were involved in a tragic event that occurred on a night that was otherwise considered to be regular. As a result of Christie Sheets and her daughters being involved in the situation, this evening was transformed into a terrible occurrence. The annual family dinner that was supposed to be a celebration of Jason's birthday turned out to be a night filled with mayhem, which ultimately resulted in the murders of 2 young people and the dissolution of a family unit that appeared to be stable. The meal was supposed to be a celebration of Jason's birthday. In honor of Jason's birthday, the lunch was supposed to be a celebration of the occasion. The Sheets family was profoundly affected by Christie's actions, which were fueled by a combination of personal concerns and tensions. Christie's actions had a significant influence on the organization. It is because of Christie's deeds that an impression was made that will be remembered for all time. Jason Sheets was the only person to survive the aftermath of the calamity, and he was left with memories of the terrible events that took place. He was the only person to survive. The deaths of his 2 children, Taylor and Madison, left him with a great weight and irreparably altered the path that his life would take from that moment forward. Madison and Taylor were his children. In addition, the tragedy that befell the Sheets family reverberated across the entire community, leaving friends and neighbors in a state of bewilderment and disillusionment. The town, which had been relatively tranquil in the past, was compelled to face the harsh realities of family dispute and the devastating consequences that it brought about. The terrible occurrence that occurred with the Sheets family stimulates a profound contemplation on the fragility nature of familial bonds and the necessity of social knowledge regarding mental health within our communities. The horrific occurrence underlines the significance of having open conversations about the issues that people encounter with their mental health and offering appropriate support networks during these times. Besides, the event highlights the necessity of having these conversations. It serves as a potent reminder that even families that appear to be in a stable situation may be battling with internal issues that, if they are not addressed, can lead to tragic outcomes. This is a profound reality that should not be overlooked. There is a collective call for mental health awareness, intervention, and support to be prioritized at the same time as we are having a difficult time coming to terms with the repercussions of this horrific occurrence. The terrible event that occurred to the Sheets family acts as a potent motivator for communities to come together and cultivate empathy and understanding in order to prevent the occurrence of disasters that are like to the one that occurred to the Sheets family. The necessity of recognizing and treating mental health difficulties within families becomes of the utmost importance when people are going through such a difficult time. It is for this reason that this serves to confirm the idea that empathy and involvement can be crucial weapons in the prevention of calamities of a similar nature. Thank you for watching. I recommend our other crime videos.